in Cuba. That's what they wanted. So the communists have a technique called the dialectic. You take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. And everybody thinks, oh, he changed. Ah, you're 1 step closer. So what they did, they wanted a military base in Cuba. So they brought in a military base and missiles, right? Kennedy said, get them missiles out of there. And they, huffed for a while. Finally, okay, they got the missiles out. They kept the base. That's all they wanted. They've done that all over the world. Step by step, taking over, creeping in. Karl Marx said we need a central bank. Boy, when they got the Federal Reserve System and voted in 1913, the communists rejoiced. They said, this is it, the beginning of the end for America. Because now they can manufacture a depression. 1929 depression was totally manufactured. Because they wanted a new world order. There've always been folks who want to help Satan get one world control. Satan wants to control the world and wipe out humanity totally. Now these idiots think that they are going to wipe out everybody else, but not themselves. Satan has plans to wipe them out too, but they don't know that. Satan's in charge of all this. They want to reduce the world population to 2 billion by the year 2000 and then to 500 million after that. Well, it's going to be down to 0 when Satan gets done, if he has his way. So what they did, in 1929, they manufactured a depression. A couple of years later, everybody's starving, and they said, wow, what are we going to do? And Roosevelt comes in and says, well, I got a deal for you. Come down and get your Social Security number. Huh? People lined up to get it. By the way, that is totally voluntary. And if you have a Social Security number, you have just entered into a trust. You're part of a trust agreement, and you've got a whole bunch of things you've got to do now. But if you send them a little letter saying, I don't want my Social Security number anymore, you rescind your number, and anybody can do that. Simple. I don't have one. I haven't had a number in 20 years. Don't have a Social Security number? No. Why? Who would want one of them anyway? It's neither social nor is it secure. You say, what's going to happen when you get old? Well, I think the Bible says we're supposed to take care of our own family, aren't we? I don't know. I'm going to provide for myself. If you think you can send your money through your state capital and through Washington and get more back when you're 65, something's wrong with your thinking. Anybody can drop out. Matter of fact, some people have rescinded their Social Security number and then sent letters off and got all the money they've ever paid in back. I don't know if it can always be done, but some people have done that. But it's totally voluntary. Now, if you volunteer, hey, you pay the piper if you're going to dance to the tune. But you might want to get out of that. Anyway, central bank. What they're going to do next time is manufacture a depression, coming real soon probably, collapse the U.S. economy, which can easily be done overnight. And then everybody will line up and say, oh, hey, we're starving, what can we do? They're going to say, you know, we really got a problem, we need to solve this. But there's too many illegal aliens, there's too many bad checks, there's too many, too easy to counterfeit money. Let's give everybody a permanent identification, a little microchip, like this one right here. You ever heard of the little microchip? I've had 4 people tell me in the last 2 months that they saw somebody go to the store in America. 2 of them were in Missouri, 2 were in Arkansas. They saw them go to the store, run everything over the scanner, and then run their hand over the scanner to pay for it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've had 4 people tell me they saw it. A little debit card embedded under the skin, little microchip. The technology is here. Had a guy tell me 2 weeks ago, a friend of his sold his house, and the guy paid him in cash, $30,000. He's driving down the highway, and the policeman pulled him over. He wasn't breaking any laws. Policeman pulled him over and said, why are you carrying so much cash? He said, how do you know I'm carrying cash? He said, oh, that little magnetic strip in there shows up on these guns we've got. We can tell how much cash you've got. You ever seen that little strip in the money? That's the real purpose behind it. Yeah. Interesting, huh? Central bank. Last crisis was to get the Social Security number. Next one's going to be to get the little microchip. And you won't be able to buy or sell without it. Better read Revelation 13 and 14 pretty carefully tonight when you go home. Government ownership of communication and transportation. Do you have to get a driver's license? Yep. Well, I have one, but you don't have to have one. You know, all over the United States, people are giving up, sending their driver's license back in, saying, I don't want this. Because along with this comes responsibilities. And you can get out of the whole thing if you like. See me, I can give you more on that. I don't want to get, I could chase all these rabbits down a long trail, but I want to stick with the central theme of how it ties in with evolution, okay? So we're going to try to, don't get me started on this stuff, okay? We're just going to, I'm just going to kick them and keep walking, all right? But believe me, there's a lot to learn out there. Government ownership of factories and agriculture. Ooh. You know, government is so heavily involved in agriculture. These guys are just tied in, inseparable. They had two farm agents met one day at the office, and one of them was crying. He said, "What are you crying about?" He said, "My farmer died." They got about one farmer apiece for every farm agent. Folks, we're getting socialized in our farming system. Government control of labor, corporate farms, regional planning, government control of education. Karl Marx, why do you want the government to control education? Ooh, that's Karl Marx's idea. Now, they had some public schools before that, but most of the people in the 1800s, 90% of the people went to private schools. They were flourishing. And a group of rich, smart folks got together and said, you know, if we're ever going to control America, we must have a public school system. There's a whole article on the table here about why we got a public school system and how it all ties in. You have to have that, folks, so you can teach the kids what you want them to learn. You got to make them good citizens. Not good Christians, good citizens. Certainly not smart people. You want to make them obedient slaves. And the dumber they are, the easier they are to control. Maybe that's why so many high school graduates can't even read their own diploma. Communist rules for revolution. You know, this was kind of accidentally discovered. 1919. Somebody found this, the red rules. How to take over a country. Corrupt the young. Break down the old moral virtues. There are no rights and wrongs. Encourage civil disorders. Soft government attitude toward crime. Well, he's only murdered 4 people. 3 strikes and you're out, you know. How about 1 strike and you're out? Divide the people into hostile groups. Get the people's minds off their government. Focus their attention on athletics. You know, in 1919, there were less than 200 people involved in the Olympics. How many people every year, every 4 years now? Hey, you know, I bet if I said, how many of you in this room can name 5 pro football teams? Most of you could think of 5. If I said, if you can name 5 pro baseball teams, you could think of 5. If I said, if you can name both of your state's senators, probably a lot of you couldn't even name both of your senators. If I said, if you can name who your representative is and what district you're in, half of you wouldn't know. If I said, if you can name your 5 school board members, probably nobody in this room knows who the names of your 5 school board members. Maybe 1 or 2 of you. I think our minds are off our government. I think we're more concerned about who throws the ball through the hoop than who buys the textbooks that our kids learn from. Precisely what they want. A fellow in England wrote a letter to his buddy in England. He said, you know, we are going to lose the American colonies because the best-selling books over there in the colonies are books about the Bible, devotional guides. These folks read their Bible. He said the second best-selling books are books about law. These people study the law. We cannot enslave them. He predicted they would lose the American colonies before it happened because the people studied the law. They studied government. We don't know much about the government, do we? We know a lot about the baseball and the football. We don't know much about the government. We deserve to be slaves, folks. We've earned the right. Get control of all the media. That was the plan from a long time ago. There's always been a plan to control the media, and boy, it's been done. You get the managed news if you watch the newspaper, read the newspaper and watch the, you know, the 3 sewer lines, NBC, CBS, and ABC. What you ought to do is clip that sewer line off and just get some alternative media, like some of the shortwave stations or some of the AM radio stations that are out there, some of the Patriot networks and stuff like that, because you're not going to get the real news if you watch the other bunch. I saw a bumper sticker said, impeach Dan Rather. Yay, that'll work. Anyway, destroy people's faith in their leaders. Of course, it's pretty easy to do with what we got, but... Okay. Cause the registration of all firearms. Why would the communists want to register